Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB bikini pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Hey everybody, today we are sitting down with a full-time student at SDSU who is studying kinesiology with an emphasis in fitness specialist, and she's currently a bikini posing coach and an online coach for lifestyle and competitors. So welcome to the show, Marisa Woo. How are you doing?
Good. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me today.
Of course. I'm really happy we're able to make this happen. And before we get into everything that I have planned today, I'd love to know what's something that you do or a ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
A ritual I actually have been doing for a few years now is saying a prayer before I step on stage. My fiance and I always say a prayer together. Typically, if you can't make it backstage or I can't make it backstage for him, we kind of do a quick text, just say, hope Lord is watching over you. And we are just thankful for the blessing that we have to compete in this sport. Just kind of a quick reminder that competing is a privilege and a blessing. So every time I step on stage, I just do a quick little prayer.
I love that. It's definitely a privilege for sure. And so right now you've decided to wait until 2020 to hit it hard on the pro circuit. And I'm wondering what led you to make that decision and how do you feel about taking this longer improvement season?
Leading up to this decision is actually very, very difficult. I think for the past 3 years, I have just been competing, and chasing after my pro card, which has honestly molded me into the person I am today. It has, taught me discipline. It has taught me ambition. It's taught me to set goals. So taking a step back was hard for me because it was really hard for me to differentiate, where my ambition lays and where my drive drives from. But I realized, right now, as far as my health, competing for years on end and not taking long enough improvement season can be very detrimental. So mentally and physically, I just was not in my prep. And when I prep, I like to give it 110%. I want to make sure that I hit the stage knowing that I gave my everything. And for the longest time during this prep, it was just really hard for me to get into the momentum of it. And I'm finishing up school within this next year, and I'm planning my wedding. So, I thought it was probably the best decision to just kind of step back this year, and then, recover from the years of competing, focus on planning the wedding, focus on graduating, and then come back in 2020.
That's awesome. I love that. And what kind of things did you notice from not taking the time off that maybe have now showed up?
Definitely imbalance of my hormones. I think as most women know when they compete, especially year round and getting very, very lean, you will tend to lose your menstrual cycle. And every improvement season, I would, make an appointment with a doctor or a hormone specialist just to make sure everything was in check. And I usually would always get my menstrual cycle back before starting prep, but I don't think I got it long enough to get myself back to homeostasis and back to balance. So that was definitely the main concern. So I wanted to make sure that, one, I got my menstrual cycle back for a good amount of time. And two, I feel like when you're in prep for so long, even when you say, you're going to make it to all these family events and you're going to make sure that you have your relationships in check, I think sometimes it does get put on the back burner. I feel like I did miss a handful of family events that, you just can't get back. And that's the one thing. I mean, the stage is always going to be there, and I love the sport, but my family's not always going to be there as far as, my grandparents and the older relatives in the family.
Yeah, that's such a powerful realization as well. And excuse me, something that we haven't talked much about on this show is actually how friendships or relationships and family might change over time as our lifestyle and habits and goals do as well. So what have you
Mhm.
personally noticed since really committing to this lifestyle? Or maybe like now that you're not in prep mode, how has that changed?
I think, well, it's played a huge, like, role in, like, where I am now. There's two sides to it. There's that side where, you say, you really find out who your real friends are, who are going to support your goals no matter what, which is absolutely true. When I first started competing, um, the community of bodybuilding is actually very small in the grand scheme of things. And anyone who doesn't really see it on a daily basis, can get a little judgmental, which to each their own. I know it is a very, very unique sport in its own way. But when I first started competing, I was in a sorority, and the girls were very judgmental. And, I'm not going to say which sorority, but I didn't feel supported. And I actually ended up feeling very isolated and very alone. Except, my mom was there. She was always saying, do what you got to do. I support you. You're going to be okay. At the time I was dating a boyfriend from high school, and I don't think our goals and our mindsets aligned as I started transitioning to basically a different lifestyle. So for a moment, I was actually pretty alone. I didn't have close friends. I didn't really have anyone to kind of share my progress and my journey with. But as time went on, girls on my team and girls within the industry around, San Diego and LA, I started kind of connecting with. And at first it was just kind of surface. We all compete. We all have the same struggles as far as prep and food and the gym. But then as time went on, you kind of connect with people on a deeper level because you see that they have that same goal, that same ambition as you. And, to partake in this sport, we all kind of have that same mindset. So then you kind of gravitate to the same girls. And then that just kind of led into meeting my fiance, which, yes, we met at the gym.
I met my boyfriend at the gym too.
No shame, no shame. And that kind of, he has, been obviously the biggest impact on my life. He has taught me so much, has opened my mind to so many things, not just bodybuilding. He's actually, even though he's fully invested in bodybuilding as I am, he's the one person who's made me realize, bodybuilding is not everything. It supplements our life. As much as we love competing, we also now make it a priority to take time to travel the world, make vacations, make sure we see family, make sure that, if we do a show near a family member, we make sure that they know. So I say this to most competitors, that sometimes it takes time to find your tribe and to find your circle of people. And sometimes, from starting off in bodybuilding to ending, or not ending, but continuing your journey, that sometimes your circle gets smaller and smaller, but you're always going to be surrounded by those people who truly support you.
Yeah, I love that. And I noticed that the community, like you said, is really empowering for the most part. When you find like your group or the people that you can really vibe with, then it's awesome. And you had mentioned too, like that with taking the improvement season as well, like of course you had to start prioritizing your health more and getting your hormones in balance for like a longer period of time. So I've experienced a similar thing with my hormones as well. And my coach was like, you can't do another prep until things are back. And I was like, that's smart. But now it's like, I'm in that same boat as you where it's like, okay, well, I loved it so much and I was on a roll, but now actually like taking the time off is teaching me so much. And
Oh, yeah.
what have you learned just from like taking this time off so far? Like, have you learned any like big things about yourself or like this world or anything like that?
Oh, 100%. I am continuously learning. I only made this decision to step back from the stage, I believe, in March or beginning of April. So it's only been a few months, but I have just learned about this lifestyle that it's, you're not going to be a bodybuilder for the rest of your life when you're 100 years old. And I think I've always been in a mindset where there's always a season. There's always prep season, get cut, get lean for the show. And then there's your reverse diet and improvement season where, you have X amount of time to put on the muscle that you want so that next time you hit the stage, you look better than ever. But with that, it's, again, you're always in a mindset. You're always like, okay, grow, 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 or cut, cut, cut. And now I get this nice little happy medium of not really having to do either, just kind of incorporating fitness into my lifestyle, which is why I started bodybuilding in the first place. And,
Mm-hmm.
my goals have always been the same to, either improve my physique, whether that's cutting or improving on top of the muscle I've already built. But it's kind of nice to not have a timeline, just kind of be like, in the middle ground, just kind of maintaining the physique I have right now, growing slowly, of course. But yeah, I've really been kind of soaking it up and just learning how to live this lifestyle without having the stage in mind, because I'm surrounded by a lot of trainers here in San Diego who, either competed before or don't compete at all, and they live the lifestyle and they live the balance of, keeping a role model for their clients, but also enjoying, events here and there.
Yeah, that's so huge for me too. I realize like shifting into like the lifestyle mindset again, but also still
Mm-hmm.
with the like idea and the mentality of like, okay, I still have goals. Like this is still a part of my life that I love and want to continue to grow through, but it's just not like I have a date in mind or whatever it might be, right? There's not a show. So then like you
Yeah,
get in that
exactly.
mindset. Yeah, and it's cool too. Like you're learning about like, okay, well, what do I need or what are my expectations for myself in this lifestyle? So I think sometimes like competitors are afraid to really take the time to grow, especially if that means like they won't be as close to prep lean. So what would you say to the competitors who want to remain really close to like prep size, but when they're really building?
Sorry, my
We're
throat's
both
a little
on that like today.
scratchy. It's contagious. um, sorry, let me clear the throat a little bit.
Go for it. Go for it.
So, I've I've approached this topic a lot because it becomes kind of like a trending thing that girls compete, even if it's once or just a few times. Becoming lean is an addiction because you it's kind of like a body dysmorphia type thing. You see yourself and you see how far you can push your body and how great you look. You get all this attention in the gym. You get all these compliments when you go to the grocery store because you look like this crazy Hulk. But my one famous thing that I think many people say is stage lean is just that. It is stage lean for the stage, and away from it, it is very, very unhealthy. Your body does not want to be that low in body fat. It's starving at that point. I mean, some girls, granted, they're allowed to prep on higher calories and low cardio, and genetically, I wish I was like that. But
Mhm.
the majority of people who compete do have to go into that deep, deep deficit of calories and be on high cardio, just depending. But I tell girls that you can incorporate, just like what I'm learning now, you can incorporate this lifestyle and you can keep great shape. You can be fairly lean, but not to the point of being stage lean. That is, merely a few weeks out from your show and then on show day. After that, you really have to consider your health. And I think and I've been there myself where I'm like, "Ugh, I can't take photo shoots now. I'm not lean enough. And I'm not going to ever look like that. So I need to wait till I'm super lean to take a photo shoot or feel comfortable in that outfit or this outfit. And that's where you have to find that middle ground. Like you don't need to be super lean, but just be happy with a fit lifestyle. You don't have to go crazy bulk mode and put on excess amount of fat just to gain muscle. That's where you kind of have to consider taking a nice long off season so that you can slowly put on quality muscle and minimal fat. I think a lot of girls do, I think, need to visit the topic and really ask themselves, why do you want to stay so lean? And what are you really getting out of it? If it's attention seeking, then you really have to reevaluate why you're doing this sport, what you're getting out of it, not for attention. You should be doing it for yourself. And that's kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah, I love that. And that self-awareness, that becoming in tune with what's really going on, like beyond what we
Mm-hmm.
see and beyond what we're feeling, but like what's driving those things. I think that's massive. And I love that you brought that up too, because there's also girls who will come out of a show and what happens, like, and I'm sure you've experienced this as well. It's like you almost get a little bit lost of like, okay, well, I don't
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
like I don't have another show day, or I don't know where I'm going with this, or you start to see your body change, or maybe you're participating in habits that are not at all conducive to your goals that you were not even touching before, like when you were in prep mode. It was like you didn't even think about like actually having a meal out or whatever it might be, right? So then
Mm-hmm.
if you
Yeah.
start having those like behaviors, all of a sudden there's just self-judgment, and then you don't feel proud of yourself regardless of how your body looks. You might still be like super fit and in shape looking and like the anomaly, but at the same time, like you're not feeling that way because you're taking actions that are out of alignment with who you see yourself as or how you're supposed to be. And then we get all that pressure on ourselves. Have you ever experienced like those feelings of like I know I'm like I look good, I'm in a good spot, but I'm maybe not taking the actions I should be, or have experienced that like confusion, I guess you could say?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I love that you brought those specifics up because I really think that, like I was saying, you know what, when you're stage lean, when you're getting ready for a show, you you kind of put a title to yourself. Your friends back home, your family, the people who, see your stuff on social media, they correlate you with the bodybuilder. I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure people from my high school see me and they're like, oh, she's the bodybuilder now. And I think a lot of people get attached to that title or that image that people correlate them with. And I think they don't want to let that go. So I've been there myself where, I start competing, I go into improvement season, and I'm like, well, who am I now? I'm not, getting ready for a show. Like, what do people see me as? And I think I got too caught up in, worrying about what other people judged me as, and I think a lot of people, again, going back to that image of being super lean, feel like they have to keep up that image, that leanness, because that's what they showed to their friends, their family, and their followers. That like they owe it to the people watching them to keep that shape, and that is not the case at all. If you're fully within this industry, a handful of people will know that you're going to go through stages of being lean, gaining a little weight, or in the middle ground. And I think when I started my first reverse and coming out of a show, I did have second thoughts of like, okay, I'm going out to dinner, but should I like be mindfully tracking, or should I just be enjoying this dinner? And I think a big thing that people struggle with coming out of a show is, wow, I had one untracked meal that my coach didn't give me. So now this gives me full reign to just eat whatever for the rest of the day. And
Mhm.
sometimes, a free meal turns into a free day. A free day turns into a free week. And that I think a lot of people experience because you go from restriction to freedom. And one of the most important things of that is really controlling your mindset, understanding mind over matter. What, am I really hungry, or am I just taking this freedom and rolling with it? And that honestly comes with time. Controlling that comes with time. I've learned a lot about my mindset, my body, and what eating really entails as far as freedom. I eat to enjoy the event, not the food now. Obviously, I enjoy food, but if my grandma wants to go out and eat, I'm like, where do you want to go, Grandma? Let's go.
Yeah.
But eating just to eat, I think that's a big thing after a show, and I think that's where you really do learn a lot about yourself. And kind of, I think, it's a good indicator if you do this years on end to kind of evaluate after every show where you're going with your lifestyle, because you don't want it to be a roller coaster of ups and downs for the rest of your, bodybuilding career.
I love everything you said. I don't know that it could have been said any better, honestly. That was awesome and gives so much perspective, especially because I think it's easy for us to like look at like other competitors and be like, well, they're doing a certain thing or they're living a certain way, and then let that dictate our life. And that puts us back into that mindset of what are other people thinking and doing, or what are they going to say? And then reestablishing our own standards and our own expectations. And something I've found, like with working with girls in this situation, is that if we can address what's going on, like even during prep, like before you get into that post show, like asking yourself questions like what do I actually know about the way I'm currently eating and living my life? Like, why am I actually eating this way? Why am I living this way? Like, how does this lifestyle actually make me feel? And how do I know when I've had a good day? Aside from like
Yeah.
killing it all the time, it's like, okay, like what about like the reasons behind all this? Because I think when we know that, then we have more motivation or more knowledge to either sustain or kind of retract from those habits. And then it gives us that idea of like, okay, well, why am I actually eating any of this, or why am I concerned about what these people are thinking? And I just love what you said about it really coming down to mindset, because it does. And it takes a strong mindset to be in this sport for the long run, which obviously you've exhibited. So what do you do to work on your mindset?
Do you mean, mindset during prep, or mindset during that kind of weaning out from prep?
How about both?
Okay, let's address both. So, honestly, it's the mindset can differ drastically because, again, it's two very different ends of the spectrum. Going into prep or throughout my prep, the mindset is very, very much just narrowed onto the goal. Whatever the stage is, whatever the date is for the show, it's let me lay out the roadmap to get there, and let's do everything we can to get there. Don't slack, don't eat extra, don't miss out on cardio, put every little ounce, blood, sweat, and tears into your list, because really, if you're gonna compete, I really, really, truly think that you should be giving it 100%, because prep, honestly, it takes a lot out of you, money wise, physically, mentally, relationships. But if you're gonna do it, I say 100% commit to it. The mindset should be, I'm in it. I'm in prep. And again, I don't know if this will probably be a little touchy to people, but prep isn't for everyone, and that is okay. And some people do prep to kind of check it off the bucket list, and that's okay. Like, it's quite an experience, but it is very taxing on your body and your mind, your family and your friends, and it's not for everyone. So the mindset going in should just be, do what you got to do to get to this stage. I'm not saying, quit your job or, X everyone out of your life, but the mindset you have is, how do I make it work within the life that I have and the life that I want? And if it doesn't go hand in hand, that's okay. I think that the mindset coming out of prep into an improvement season is, okay, there's a time and I remember one of my friends told me this. There's a time and a place to be strict and a time and a place to kind of relax. And that is what your improvement season is. I mean, it's a time to improve. It's a time to really, usually put on a good amount of muscle so that you can step on stage with a totally different package. But it's also a time to really focus on what you've been putting on the back burner during prep. Like for me, it's making sure I go to all my family events that I can. Taking from me right now, I'm able to take on more clients. I have more time. I'm not traveling as much for my show, so I get to really allocate more time to in-person and online clients. I think the mindset now, like we were addressing before, is really making sure your relationship with food is good. You never want to have a bad relationship with food on the tail end of your improvement season and then diving deep into prep, because then prep is just going to be a very long prep for you.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess I want to say, the mindset for prep differs drastically from the mindset for improvement season, but everyone's different because everyone's lifestyle is different. They can balance things differently. And I think for me, it will change over time just because I'll be graduating soon and I'll be able to kind of incorporate more of my lifestyle within prep. Right now, it's just very much so like in the class, trying to get all these projects and schoolwork done. But that's how I see it.
I love that. And I think one of the things that you said that really stood out to me, and I want to use this as an opportunity to invite people to something that I have, which is if your relationship with food is struggling or you are struggling with it and you're not sure what to do, there are definitely ways that you can get it in a healthier place, a healthier space before going into a prep or coming out of one. And something that I offer is I don't have a name for it because it's difficult for me to name it because it encompasses a lot of different things, but it's a food relationship discovery and journal type program where there's like mealtime rituals and a full deep dive into someone's relationship with food and making sure that we can heal it from where it's at. And so I wanted to invite anyone who's listening who's like, I need something like that. I need to get my relationship with food in a healthy place. Like, reach out. I'll help you to figure out exactly what that looks like for you. Because as we've been talking about this, like one of the keys is that everybody's idea or definition can be different, and that's okay, whatever it is. And you don't have to compare it, but you can also use it as a guide or a tool. But what it really comes down to is you being fully comfortable with the decisions and actions you're taking and making sure that it is coming from a healthy frame of mind. And I just appreciate you bringing that up as well, Marisa. And something that I really, really love about you that you've talked about is how you won't always bring your best package each time. And sometimes you have to switch it up and test different ones, like maybe a more conditioned look or maybe a more full look. So how have you been able to grow with this learning mentality? Like, how do you think it has impacted you as a competitor?
Well, first off, I want to just say thank you for offering that program for girls who do struggle with their relationship with food. I think that's amazing within this sport and industry, and very, very helpful because some girls feel very alone and don't always see an opportunity and outlet to, get help or have a community. So I'm very glad that you offered
Oh,
that.
thank you. It's seriously become like such a passion of mine. Like only recently I was like, this is what I need to do. Like this is because I was already
my
doing
calling.
that, but yeah, exactly. It just like a light shine, like a light bulb, like, oh, I should be bringing the competitive space. And so I appreciate you saying that. That really means a lot to me.
No, yeah, I love it. But in regards to the question that you asked about kind of testing out different packages to the stage, wow, that has been a roller coaster for me. And this is why I always say, one, getting feedback from judges is very, very important, and two, watching the circuit, whether it's the pro circuit or some big NPC shows, looking at how they're judging, what the top five look like, what the overall is looking like, and kind of see where the division is heading towards. I have gone very, very lean to a show, feeling absolutely amazing because I'm like, heck yeah, look at my hard work. I'm super lean. This shows my hard work. And then, the feedback was I was just way too lean. I was, showing striations on my shoulders, and I completely understand because that's kind of borderline figure. And I can see where they wanted more fullness, especially in my shoulders. My glutes were popping, my tie-ins were popping, but I think a little too lean for the judges' liking. So that was Pittsburgh show in 2017. So I had been placing pretty well in 2017, but I think as my season went on and on, I just got leaner and leaner. So what we did in 2018 was we came in with a fuller look. I was still, conditioned, but not as dicey and as lean as I'm used to, not as vascular as I was used to. And I think it played a mind game with me. Going into the show, I kept second guessing myself, and I was saying, am I ready? I don't think my tie-ins are deep enough. I just don't feel like I'm lean enough, and I was freaking out a bit because you can really compare yourself to your past stage package and whether you feel up to par with it, if you feel like you've improved from it. And I think I just went back and forth on if, this was the look we were going for. But what my coach and I had saw with the previous shows was that girls were coming in still very conditioned, but full, very full. And so for me to achieve that look, we just didn't hammer so down on cardio. We try to keep foods as high as possible going into the show. And from that, we came in with a pretty full look, and I won my pro card off of that look. It's probably one of the heaviest I've been on stage, but it was what the judges wanted. And it was weird. Looking back at it, I do actually really like the look. I had a nice full look to me, but I think I was very uncomfortable because I just felt like it wasn't the leanest I could be. And after that show, we decided to do my pro debut, and we, asked a few judges, what do we need to bring to the pro circuit? What do you guys want to see? And they said, bring that exact look. And I was like, really? But yeah, so that was kind of my, roller coaster up and down of like bringing different packages to the stage. And, sometimes, I tell girls, lean doesn't always win a show. They want, as far as the bikini division, they want symmetry and aesthetics. And sometimes when you're lean bean and everything is just popping and striating, I don't think they necessarily prefer that.
That's a powerful lesson, and it kind of goes back to what you said earlier about how sometimes like getting lean can just become like an addiction.
Oh yeah.
So were you feeling like
sorry, what?
I was gonna say, were you feeling like you weren't ready, like heading into that show, like feeling like too full, or were you like, was it like fear that maybe it would be too much, or like what was going through your head?
Oh, 100%. I felt like I wasn't ready, and my coach always tells me not to do this, but it's such an instinct to compare your last package to this package. And he tells you not to do that because every improvement season, you're going to change. Your physique's going to change. You're going to put on more muscle. So comparing your weight, comparing what you look like from 5 weeks out this year and 5 weeks out last year is not going to be the same. But of course, me, like at 12 at night, just sitting in bed thinking I'm not ready.
Yeah.
I go back and I look at like my 5 weeks out from 2017, and I'm like, I'm not that lean yet. Like, I'm freaking out. And I think it really is. It's a mind game. You used to be this lean at that many weeks out. Like, should you be that lean now? But again, I now preach this because I kind of live by it. You can't compare your last year's physique to this year's physique. or, progress, because your body's always changing. If you are competing years on end, your body and metabolism is always changing. So the process and the progress of your prep may be slower or even faster each time around. And I also tell girls that for me too, each time around in prep, my body actually leans out differently, which is it's kind of a mind game that you have to get used to.
Yeah.
But it's something that you have to be, again, it's like being in tune with your body. You have to kind of watch it and, track your progress, whether that's mentally or you actually, physically write it down, just kind of keeping track of things. And that's how I do my check-ins. Everything's on an Excel sheet. So I can look back on, my stats and my progress from last year and just kind of see how my body reacted to different calories or different cardio. But like, even for me, I think my first prep, my legs were the first to go, and my midsection was probably the second, and my arms were the third. And now it's like my arms go first, and then my legs, and then my midsection is like, no, I'll just wait till peak week. I'm like, okay, that's cool.
That is so funny. Yeah, I feel that. So in this current time frame, I mean, they told you, bring the same package, the pro stage, but what are you working on right now in your improvement season? Like, what are you focused on?
So I'm I know girls say this all the time, is glutes, glutes, glutes. And I actually, many people think I have big glutes. I don't have a big butt. I just have, my glute muscle just pops. But what I'm trying to focus on is I've gotten feedback that my legs are a little bit big, which I think to me makes my glutes look smaller. So I have this I nitpick, of course, my physique and how I can improve it. And what I've seen is I have pretty big hamstrings. So from the side, it looks like I have huge legs. So I've been kind of working overall on symmetry, trying to, just isolate the glutes so I can continue to grow them, but not so much isolate, my quads. My hamstrings, I think, I work them regardless when I'm doing glutes because it's kind of inevitable not to. But I'm not trying to build on top of them. So I'm really trying to create symmetry everywhere. So with that, as I'm growing my glutes, I'm growing my shoulders. I think my 100% main focus is to get more muscle mass on my shoulders, because as I was saying, when I lean out, my shoulders they shrink. They get smaller and smaller. And I've actually had a handful of people when I'm, deep into my off season, or, right now when I'm, in the middle ground, people have asked, would you ever go figure? You've got good muscle. And I said, no. I'm going to say bikini, because when I get lean, I get smaller. I lose a good amount of muscle. So, each prep round, I'm just trying to put on quality muscle so that I can hold it better and longer throughout my prep.
So now obviously there's the wellness division too. Have people asked you about that?
Yes, lots of questions on that.
I know it's not going to be like a thing until next year, but what have you thought about that?
So I've looked at it, and I've kind of, my coach and I tried to dissect, what is it, who is it really targeting? And the girls look like, I don't want to say a combination of figure and bikini, but they have like a bikini upper body, and then the lower body, I would just say, is more dense. They still have conditioning. The tie-ins are there. Their glutes are nice and full. Their legs are just bigger and more dense. And I think, some girls are like, well, should I do wellness? There are a few figure girls who've asked me if they should do wellness. And then, of course, a handful of bikini girls who are like, well, should I do wellness? And I said, you know what? Let them come out with the rules and regulations. But right now, for the inner room, take a look at, the past Olympians who went to bikini and the past champions internationally and see who you look more like. See what you're genetically gifted with and what division you fit in with best.
Mm.
And I think that's what it kind of comes down to, the difference between like bikini and wellness or wellness and figure is what you're genetically capable of bringing to the stage. Because I think, again, bikini, you don't want overpowering legs. And whereas wellness, you can have those overpowering legs, and that's what they're looking for. That's the shape that they want. And I think, instead of some girls having to drastically change their bodies for bikini, they can, try wellness out and see how they like it, or vice versa for figure to wellness.
Yeah, totally. It's almost like when like Classic came out and there was
Mm-hmm.
like that shift where some guys were like trying it out and then all of a sudden it was like the ones who really were meant to be there just like were on the up and up. Like they became like the
Yeah,
top. So
which
it's like
was
a good
crazy because
opportunity.
no, definitely, and I think like for as far as classic, like you saw, maybe a lot of men who just couldn't bring it to the bodybuilding division go classic, and like what you were saying, just are wrecking havoc, and they're just doing phenomenal because they fit that division better. Wellness, I think, again, is going to be an opportunity for women who maybe the division in bikini is just hurting them and they're just not up to par to what the judges want. And, they switch to wellness. I have actually a handful of teammates who are looking into wellness next year because they know they can do good in bikini, but they've kind of reached their ceiling. There's like not room for improvement for them in bikini division where they can go to wellness and really thrive there because they can go ham on their training as far as legs and go that direction.
Totally. I love that so much too, to just think of how that's going to unfold. And so, something else I was thinking about is as a posing coach, which you are, I mean, that's your main thing, right? Posing coaching.
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I watch a lot of your posing videos and I think it's really awesome, like the instruction you give. So you had mentioned that you from the side, like your hamstrings look bigger. So what are some ways that people can like hide their like not I don't know how to say it, like hide the things that aren't going to support them best and doing their best on stage?
Um, that is like my mantra. And I think most people know this, that bodybuilding is very much so hiding your flaws, because we all have flaws. Um, and showcasing your best attributes, and that's where posing comes into play, because I think a lot of people who just start off bodybuilding just think, okay, I've dieted hard, I trained hard, I look great, let's just show it on stage, which congrats to them. But when it comes down to it, you may have an amazing physique, but if you don't know how to show it, it will definitely hurt you. I have, a lot of tips and tricks for the girls that I pose, and just knowing what the bikini division is looking for kind of helps you um, target your main poses, your main transitions, and hiding your weak points. And then that I always tell girls that, when we first start off, I'm like, oh, you're 6 months out from your show. Your posing is probably going to change drastically. I just want to get a foundation down. But, as you lean out, some things pop better than others. Your glutes might look better, your legs might look better, your waist might be smaller. So, things are always changing throughout prep. So posing is always changing. But, what I tell girls, my main takeaway from posing is no matter where you are on stage, you always want to create shape. You never want to just be like standing there like a box. You
Mhm.
want to create an image that judges don't want to look away from. And that's, I tell people, posing is like being a pretzel. You're going to twist and turn and rotate in so many different ways, but it's all for the benefit of making shape and symmetry in your body.
Mm. And when you were saying that, something came to mind, and now I'm losing it. But I think it was a really important question, and I want to ask you. Oh, yeah, okay. So
And
sometimes I'm like on the fly and I need to write it down and I don't, but
You're like brain fart.
yes, exactly. When I think it was Courtney King, she started doing like at the Olympia, she did like that one front pose that's now very popular where it's like the side more so. I don't really know exactly how to describe it. You know what I'm talking about? Where you're sitting into the front glute and the other leg is out rather than the Angelica Teixeira like leg in the front for her second pose. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
I call that one like I call it like the side glute front pose, and
Yes.
then the Angelica one, I just call that like a staggered pose because you're staggering your legs, but you're still like twisting your body and whatnot.
That makes
And
sense.
those are like two of the bigger front poses that a lot of girls hit. But I again, girls some are harder to sit into than others, and some girls can't always figure out the footing and the placement of their feet for that staggered front pose. Because it plays a huge role in like how you shift your body. Because I see a lot of girls hit that staggered pose, but they don't realize that their legs are out of alignment, so it doesn't really create symmetry and shape. So I'm very, very careful with that pose, definitely.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering because like sometimes like new poses or new trends come out like when the like popping the glute in the side transition was like now that's everybody's like one of their favorite things to do, right? Or like
I know.
I love it. It's my favorite. I'll say it.
Me too. I'm like everyone's popping and flipping their hair in that pose. I'm like,
Yes.
that's a sassy pose.
Exactly. And so it's like as a posing coach when you look at like girls and they're posing, sometimes do you think that the trends actually don't work for them on their body, or how do you help someone determine that?
So, and like you're saying, everyone's different. And when it comes to posing, many people are different. You can, start everyone. What I start everyone off in is, just the foundations, the basics, seeing how they fit into poses. But once we go on further into, creating their routine and their transitions, I kind of judge their fluidity and how comfortable they are hitting one pose and then sitting into the next pose. And that's where I start to alter the routine. I always say actually less is more. You don't need to do a whole bunch. You just want to make sure that you're fluid and you can hit your poses where the judges are like, wow, I really, really like her physique. I like her shape. I like her symmetry. And then if someone is very, very comfortable in their routine, if fluidity is their thing, I have a lot of girls who are past dancers and you can just tell on stage they're natural, then that's when they add, a little bit extra, a little bit more finesse and sass. But if a girl is, struggling to just, to do some transitions, getting from one pose to the next pose, I take it slow with them. I teach them little tips and tricks to do transitions. Again, that sometimes is really hard because you're over here trying to keep a, tight torso, twist your body in so many different directions while, thinking, okay, left foot goes here, right foot goes here.
Yeah.
And, that's where, practicing comes in. I tell girls, you want to make sure posing is like second nature. It's like breathing. And
Yeah.
I say, you want to practice on days on end and make sure, you're not thinking about it when you hit the stage, that it just comes naturally. So that's how I kind of structure people's routines and their individual routines. And even in comparisons, I have all these little tips and tricks that really help them mold their routine to their comfortability so that on stage they feel like they can perform their best without having to worry about step one, step two, step three.
Yeah, it's so like weird because now that I've been in this improvement season for a while, I can still hit my whole routine, no problem. And it's just
Good.
it's crazy because there was a time where I had to think about the steps like over and over again, or had to watch multiple videos of me doing it and learn. So yeah,
Oh
it is
yeah,
cool.
I think that was me when I first started. my coach was like, "Oh, you're ready early. Let's just do a show in 2 weeks." I was like, I don't even have a routine.
Oh
So
no.
I practiced my heart out. I got a routine down. I practice. I like anytime I could, I was in my heels trying to break them in, and I finally nailed that routine. Now looking back at it, I'm like, wow, there are so many improvements I could have made for my first show. But you were saying something around the lines of posing.
Like how then it becomes second nature, like you can do it anytime.
Oh, yes. Literally, I feel like any girl in this industry we say, like, let's take a group picture. We all sit into a pose. It's like
Yes.
second nature. I'm
And
like,
even
oh
put
my
your
gosh,
finger
yes, what has bodybuilding done to us?
in.
And like even my family knows. They're like, we'll take like our family like Thanksgiving photo, and they're like, all right, pictures. They're like, oh, you ready, Marissa? I'm like, yeah. Let me just sit into my pose real quick. They're like, oh my goodness.
I know, right? I'm like, how do you stand if you're not posing? And
If
then
you're not, I know. I'm like, I just feel awkward. Like I've got to just pop my glute or sit. I'm like,
yes.
I just so funny now looking at normal, regular clothes pictures. I'm like, wow, we're scarred for life.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I'll look at other people's pictures and I'm like, oh, that's a really great pose. Like I'd like to try that. And then I'll give my boyfriend the phone or whatever, take a picture, and I'm like, I'm gonna go with what I normally
We're like, we tried it. We
do.
tried
Yeah.
it.
And it didn't come out very good. We need to practice. So something I wanted to bring up with you too is like how easy it is to get wrapped up in like surface level stories on social media, and I appreciate how honest and open you are and you share everything, and not everybody is comfortable or wants to do this, which is fine too. And I'm curious, from like your point of view, have you noticed that some people are surprised when they see someone from online in person, or maybe someone online comes out with something like they've been going through? Like, have you noticed any incongruency become a shock to some people because of that surface levelness of social media?
Um, that's an amazing question. And I think more girls recently have been, just being raw and real with it, talking about their struggles and their ups and downs of competing. I think, I always say, you don't have to share everything. Like, sometimes some people need personal life and kind of like stray away from bodybuilding. Like some people don't, put their love life on social media at all just because they just want that privacy. But I do, tell people that like on social media, you don't really know everyone's life. It can be a reel of highlights and successes because that's what they choose to share. And that is okay. But I think as long as people are aware of that like not everyone is showing their struggles. Now, recently, I feel like more people have been voicing their struggles and the raw realness of competing, which I love as well, because it does bring to light what people are in store for when they choose to compete. That is also why, sometimes I'm careful with sharing my macros because, especially when I'm in prep, because I don't want someone else to follow them just because they're like, well, I look similar to her body. I think we'd be the same, so let me try them out. And I never want anyone to try that because they're very individualized to me. But I do like to share, sometimes the calories I'm on or the cardio I'm doing because it is, for me at least, I do have to dig deep once I get closer to a show. So I do like to share that progress and that journey. I think, like I said, no one owes it to anyone to share every little detail of their life. I think some people get too consumed in thinking we have to share every little detail because like they feel like they owe it to social media, which I used to think, I need to share every little bit in detail. And then, I started realizing that there is some, sacred moments that you just want to take in for yourself. And I think my fiance actually really opened my eyes to that. And he, there were times where I was just kind of glued to my phone. Like I had to put every single thing on my story or just had to be on social media. And he's like, you're missing out on just the moment. And, you know, I think I honestly was in denial about it for a little bit because I'm like, I'm not. Like, I'm here. I'm fine. But there were just times where we would be driving and the sunset was nice. And he's like, Marissa, you know, look up from your phone. You don't need to put it on social media. Just enjoy it. Again, this is kind of straying away from the raw realness of competing, but I'm just trying to correlate how it goes hand in hand
That's what this
with
show's about. I love it.
yeah, it just goes hand in hand with just, I think, picking and choosing what you want to share and how you want to, you know, incorporate Instagram or stories into your life. And even now, I like, even if I'm on Instagram and I post a story or post a photo, it's like doesn't really mean I'm on Instagram. Like I post and maybe I'll scroll for a minute and then I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not actually always on it. I'm just on it for the moment of like putting up whatever it is that I want to put up, and then I'm off of it. And I think, you know, I've seen some people like I think I've seen some people get offended that like other people don't know what's going on in their lives because like they posted about it or they talked about it, and like someone would be like asking, oh, are you doing a show? And they're like, well, I told my story, like this and that. And I'm like, oh, no one can keep up with each other. There's too much stuff happening on social media.
Such a
And I'm
great
like,
point.
and I know. So I'm like, honestly, I just think sometimes we can get too wrapped up in it. Because, you know, one day Instagram's not going to be there. One day, you know, I don't know. I don't really use Snapchat anymore. But, you know, not all the social media platforms are going to be there. So we really have to, you know, kind of stray away from identifying ourselves with our platforms. It's, you know, won't be the end all be all. That's actually something, I'm just rolling with it here. That's actually something I've talked to a few people about is if Instagram wasn't here, social media wasn't here, would you still compete today? Would you still be, you know, bodybuilding? And I think that kind of takes people back and they're like, oh, well, you know, if I have nothing to show people, like I don't have a platform to show, you know, how lean I am or the trophies I'm winning, would you still compete? And for me, absolutely, I would still 100% compete. I love the sport and what it mentally gives to me. It motivates me in so many other aspects in life because I see my true potential and how far I can push myself when I want to reach a goal. But I think some people, you know, really, again, use bodybuilding as kind of something to display on Instagram, which is fine. But, you know, that is something I've asked people, you know, if there wasn't social media, would you continue? I think a lot of people have to sit back and think on that.
Yeah, I totally agree. There was so many golden nuggets that you just shared, and something that really resonated was like when you're in the moment in life, like in real life with people you love or even just yourself, like to not pick up your phone and try to document it just to share it, like that's almost it's harder now for a lot of people. And something I realized like this past a few weekends ago, I was in, well, not a few weeks ago, but by the time people hear this, I was in San Diego. And I remember like being at the park, being at these places, and like lately, like anywhere I go, I haven't been taking my phone out to like document what I saw that was so awesome, because it's like I just want to be here in this moment and I don't want to have to take a picture of it. Like I'm going to remember like the way it smelled and the way I felt in the air and the sun more than I'm going to remember like, you know, a picture of it. And it's just
100%. And I think, you know, like I think about it, like the pictures that I take my phone to look back at, like that, you know, if I went to a park or amusement park there or something, like, am I actually going back in my phone to look at these pictures?
Exactly.
Or am I just taking them to take them? And I think like, I don't, you know, I don't typically go back and just look at like photos of, again, like if I was at a park or like, at the movie theater. Like, why am I taking a picture?
Yeah, I don't
um,
go, oh, let me like remember, like I think I saw this like
like
really great leaf, like, you know?
that flower was really pretty. I just want to remember it because I can't recall. No, 100%. I think, we do have to differentiate when is a good time to take out our phone and just be on it. Like when I'm with my grandparents, especially my grandparents, I try not to take my phone out at all unless I'm trying to show them something. Um, Time is limited with people, and you really can't take it for granted. You have to take every moment in and soak it in. And I've learned that over the years, with bodybuilding, because, what I mentioned before, I haven't always been able to make it to all the events I've wanted because I'll be at a show or whatnot. But um, I really try to make a conscious effort of putting the phone away and spending quality time with my family.
Mm, yeah, I really like that. I think it also means so much to the people around us. And it can go a long way, like a small action like that. Like I know if I'm talking to someone and they have their phone out, I'm just like, I already feel like completely like I don't really want to share anymore, or like there's no reason.
Yeah, there's like you're checked out, and that's the other thing. I think it's crazy because I feel like I've written like 1,000 papers on this for school because it's just such a hype topic that professors want to hear about.
Mhm.
But our technology and our phones consume us to the point where we are losing, that social interaction and connection. And I thrive off of talking to people like a little too much. Like my fiance is like, okay, are you done? Like I think at the end of an expo, like my voice is shot and I'm like, I can't talk anymore. But I love, meeting people and talking to them. I think, um, I don't know if people think I'm not as talkative as I am, like on social media, because I will talk to my story, when I'm updating or whatever. And I'm the same way in person. I love meeting people. I love feeling their energies and just kind of sharing life and just interacting with them in person. I love like if we know each other on social media, I'm like putting a face to personality. And I love having that interaction and I don't want to lose that.
Yeah, no, not at all. And I think like it takes a group of people or two people, like when you're coming together to do that. And it's always amazed me, like when people go up to influencers, like, can we take a picture together? It's like you haven't even asked them how they're doing. Like,
Yeah.
like, don't you want to talk to them? Like, don't you want to like see what's
And
up?
that's always what I do, if someone like ever like comes up to me, I always say, what's your name? Like, give me a hug. I love giving hugs.
Yeah,
And
like real
just
connection.
exactly, just I don't know. It's just the little things. Giving another human more time of your day is just special. Like the industry we live in, to be able to meet all these people from all over is so different and unique than any other life. Like you literally connect over like a bond in this industry, and it's amazing. Like it's funny, like some of my closest friends are from social media. We
Yeah.
like to talk, and I remember seeing a meme the other day. It's like your closest friend is the girl that comments "yas" on all your pictures.
I
Very
love
true.
that. Have
Very
you seen that
true.
one video of like the three people dancing in the courtyard? And it's like the three people.
That
I'm
was,
like,
I'm like, this is so accurate, like beyond compare.
I
Uh,
know. I feel that way when like if someone like gives you crap on like a post or like tries to like be a social media
like
troll.
troll.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you've got like your besties like coming in like liking all your
Your
comments
backup.
back, or like they're like, "Hey, what's going on here?" Yeah, they
It's like you don't even have to comment. They just go do all the talking for you.
yes. I love it.
That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, there's so much beauty in social media. Like, I don't know, like this podcast wouldn't be what it is without social media. Like, we wouldn't have
Oh
probably
yeah.
connected. And there's it's a really amazing thing and platform, and it's just like, how do we use it and how do we make sure it doesn't use us?
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And yes, I completely agree. It's how we utilize social media to benefit ourselves and others and that's what I thrive off of. How I can implement any type of help, advice, or just, whether it's inspiration or motivation for other women, that's how I see my page. And that's also why, another reason why I stepped back from the stage, because that one, personally, I needed to do that for myself. But I was able to express that on social media and really, really touch other women. Like, it surprised me how many other women resonated with my story or needed to hear that in order to take the steps themselves. And to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. Like, what? And I was just so happy I was able to do that because, you never know how powerful a post or a message can be until you do it.
Yeah, such a great point. And it like kind of goes back to what you said too, like if you didn't have social media, would you still be doing all this? And I feel like taking long improvement seasons or taking time away or really reevaluating like our reasons and what's driving this lifestyle can help us to see like, okay, yes, I would, or no, I wouldn't, or this is for me or it's not.
Oh yeah, completely.
Totally. So I have personally loved this conversation so much, and I feel like we could keep going forever. And it's been just
Oh girl, this
awesome.
flows.
I love it. So, what I'd love is for you to share where everybody can connect with you, work with you, contact you for posing, anything like that that you want to share, so I can put it in the show notes page as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that last part because my phone fell off the chair. What was it that you said? I
Basically,
got too excited.
yes, it's all good. Basically, where can people find you and connect with you?
So obviously on social media, I have a Linktree account where I have my website, and also my email to contact me for any coaching inquiries or posing inquiries, which would be marisawoo@gmail.com.
Awesome. So I'll be sure to put all your social media handles there. For Instagram, I'll put your link tree and I'll put the email all on the show notes page. So to everybody listening, that's going to be on www.celestial.fit/podcast. And then, of course, if you're listening to this straight away, Marissa's will be at the top. If you're listening to this further down the road, there's always going to be a category section with each athlete's name so you can find it. And I so appreciate you coming on here, Marisa, and sharing so much with us.
Thank you for having me. This was an amazing podcast. I can't wait for people to hear it.
Me either. I'm so happy. And to everybody listening, thank you guys for spending this time with us. Thanks for supporting the show, listening. And of course, if you ever need anything or have suggestions, just reach out. And with all that being said, I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it awesome.
Bye.